The conversation usually is around nobody is perfect, and you hear them say that to single people, nobody is perfect. So don't be so choosy, don't be so picky. You'll be single for a very long time if you're looking for a perfect person. There's some truth to it, but let me put it in a little bit of perspective to help you. When you're shopping for a life partner, one of the things you want to be sure about is that their imperfections are things you can live with in the long term of your life. Now, the conversation or the idea that nobody is perfect should not then result in you lowering your standards and going for just anybody simply because nobody is perfect. I've seen people marry people that were very much in contrast to their values, people that were going in completely different directions from where they were going, and they knew before the marriage. But the only reason that they continued was the conversation going on in their head from outside, from society, that nobody is perfect. So while it is true that nobody is perfect, be sure that this person's sets of imperfections are things you can live with in the long term. I'll give a few examples. As big of a deal as promiscuity or cheating looks to some of us, it is not such a big deal to some other people. And that's why I always say that you could not marry them doesn't mean necessarily that they are the wrong kind of person. They could be right for someone else, but they're just not right for you. So these things that you don't like about this person are actually a reflection of your personality. You're seeing that person as you are. We see people as we are, not as they are. And so every time you're describing somebody as promiscuous, he lies, he cheats, he's dishonest, he doesn't care, he doesn't call me, those things you're complaining about are actually a reflection of your personality, not theirs. I was in a conversation with a young lady one day when I was still single, and we're both single, and she said to me, my husband can cheat, but he should not just let me know. Now I'm hearing that and I'm like, he cheats, I kill him. Of course not. But I mean, that's how I am thinking. But here's somebody sitting in front of me across the other side of the table and saying, my husband can cheat, but he should just not let me know. I mean, he will not sleep with only me in this whole life that he has come. So he can sleep with other people, but he should not just let me know about it. As strange as that thinking is, there are people that have that mindset, that think like that. That's how they were raised. They were raised to believe that a man is polygamous by nature. African men will always cheat. Men cannot be faithful. Because that's what she has believed about men. She has said to herself, you know what? I will still find peace in a man that cheats, just as long as he doesn't let me know. So he can cheat outside, come back, and we'll still be fine. Now, that kind of imperfection is not a deal breaker for her. It's a deal breaker for me. There are different degrees to this thing, varying degrees to this thing. However, when you find somebody whose imperfections are things that you can deal with in the long term of your life, for instance, he snores, and you say to yourself, you know, my dad used to snore, it's not a big deal. I've seen snoring break marriages, literally. She doesn't know how to keep her things carefully, she's too scattered. I've seen that create serious rifts in marriages where the man just doesn't even go home. Like he waits till his wife is asleep, his children are asleep, he goes home and just sleeps in a corner because he feels like she's too scattered. Now, that is a deal breaker for him. Ensure that their imperfection is something you can live with in the long term of your life. This example I'm about to give is not even an imperfection, but there's a guy who wants a lady who is not so driven, who, you know, will take care of his kids while he goes out and makes the money, who will be a homemaker while he is the, you know, provider. For him, that's an imperfection. A woman who's career driven is a deal breaker for him. And he will have to live with it in the long term of his life or frustrate the lady by changing her and turning her around from that direction that she's already going. You can't afford to be getting married or choosing a marriage partner for things that are ephemeral, short term, plain basic, ordinary things like, oh, she sings very well, or oh, I love the way he dresses, or oh, he graduated with a first class. Some of those things, they don't matter in the grand scheme of things when you're thinking about the person you want to build a future with. And so when you're considering a marriage partner, these are some of the things I'd like you to, you know, have in mind. Just keep considering them. Open your mind up to these things so that you don't get married and start engaging frustration early in your marriage simply because the things you should have considered you just didn't pay attention to. And so if that imperfection in quotes in this instance, if that deal breaker is something you don't want, you look at your life 10 years from now, I can't deal with a woman who's traveling and I'm also traveling. If that's a deal breaker for you, then don't start. Because again, you have in front of you a woman who's imperfect according to your standards. So this conversation around imperfection is true, but I don't want you to get in the business of lowering your standards and accepting just anyone that comes your way simply because nobody is perfect. Yes, it's true that nobody is perfect, but ensure that their imperfections are stuff you can deal with in the long term of your life. And when I talk about long term, we're talking marriage, we're talking the next 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years if Jesus tarries. And so if these things that they have in their lives, these habits, because really marriage does not change anybody. Marriage doesn't change people. Don't say, oh, he sleeps around right now, but I know once he gets married, he'll be a lot more responsible. That's the strangest thing to ever say. That somebody has a character now and you believe when they marry you, there'll be a certain responsibility that'll just jump on them, that'll make them change. No, what you see is what you get. And so if this thing that you're seeing in them right now is not something you can live with in the long term of your life, then don't marry them. But if it is something that you can, I can take it, that kind of thing. For instance, a Christian guy who is dating right now a lady who on Sunday wants to wash, wants to sleep, you already know that first, for her to go to church with you every Sunday would either mean that she's changing or maybe God has touched her heart or something. It's better to imagine that you would not have to quarrel every Sunday for her to go to church, or you would not have to walk out of the house every Sunday angry because your wife would rather watch on Sunday or watch movies on Sunday. But if you're the kind of guy that, we don't have to go to church every Sunday, then you can marry that kind of person. That's where you are equally yoked. A lot of times when we see from the Bible say, be not unequally yoked, we always think, oh, it's a Christian trying to marry a Muslim. No, that's not it. A Christian that prays in tongues marrying a Christian that doesn't believe in praying in tongues, it's an unequal yoking. A person who believes in Friday night out and another person believes in Friday stay in the house, that's unequal yoking. Except people can reach a middle ground, and except you who wants to marry that person that likes to go out every Friday night can't live with it in the long term. That means on Friday night you'll be home alone while they are out. If you can live with it in the long term, why not? Go ahead and marry the person.